Knows Thursday morning, Cincinnati officers tracked down a stolen vehicle.
As you know, we had a critical incident yesterday.
4 people get out and start running. In body cam footage released today, in just 6 seconds, police say 18-year-old Ryan Hinton aims his gun at officers. He's got a gun. Police shoot and kill him.
So this incident just happened within the last several days. And it's actually turned into a freak show. I mean, the whole situation is sad all the way around, but I wanted to chime in on this because one of the things that bothers me the most, this morning I was watching a video, another news channel, and I like to read the comments, and as I'm reading through the comments, I'm noticing that typical BLM thread of everybody feeling sorry for this young black kid, and feeling sorry for the dad, saying how it's an eye for an eye or tooth for a tooth, retribution, cops are running scared. So for one, I have a strong opinion about this. For one, I was a police officer for probably almost 35 years. The other thing too is, having done the job, I understand more so than your average citizen on the street, okay? Having been born and raised a black male, I understand, but I also know a lot of what's been pushed in this country is a false narrative. Are there some police officers that do some things that are jacked up? Yes, there are. Just like there's doctors and lawyers and every other profession that does things that are jacked up. But it's only police officers where if one screws up, everybody is judged the same way, and I've never appreciated that. But before we get into this video, the police chief for Cincinnati is going to give some details about the shooting, because a lot of people who are feeling sorry for this young man, and I'm going to get more into that a little bit later as far as my real thoughts on this whole situation. She's going to break down and show you what they actually found. I love the fact that they're being transparent and not trying to hide anything, which I believe is also very important, because if somebody screwed up, expose it all. So she found in the early stages of this investigation with this young man getting shot. And we haven't even gone into the other crazy thing that happened the day after this situation happened.
See, this is a stolen Kia. It was stolen out of northern Kentucky yesterday. You can see we have 2 uniformed cars there. Prior to those uniformed cars arriving, we had 2 undercover cars that pulled into that dead end, saw the vehicle. They backed out. They saw that there were individuals inside the vehicle, so they backed out and let the uniform cars make the approach, which is the tactically sound decision to do. The cars are positioned the way the officers are trained. We are trained to use our vehicles as cover from any threat. That's what those officers did with the cars at that time. This is body-worn camera from officer number 2.
He's got a gun on your right. He's got a gun.
So just to give you an idea, we have the 2 uniformed cars, we have 2 officers, there's 4 individuals in the stolen vehicle. All 4 individuals get out and start running, some in different directions. So officers decide which individual they're going to pursue. One officer decides to pursue the individual who we now know had a firearm in his hand. The other officer pursued another. That'll be significant here in a moment when you see. So this is a still image. Again, I'm going to step out front. The car is parked over this way. Okay?
Stolen car.
They are chasing the individual. So officer number 1 is chasing this guy right here. Okay? This is the guy we ultimately end up shooting. The other officer who actually fires the shot on this individual is chasing a different individual further out this way, in this direction. Okay? As this officer is chasing him, he sees a firearm in his hand, and he yells, "Gun, gun, he's got a gun." This individual slips, trips, whatever, falls on the concrete right here. Other officers that were also there say in their interview, they heard the firearm hit the concrete. They heard the metal from the firearm hit the concrete. This individual gets up, still has the firearm in his hand, and continues to run through the dumpsters. So these are some still photos. This is the officer who originally saw him with the firearm in his hand, calling it out, runs through the dumpsters. This officer knows that there's another officer here that is going to ultimately encounter him when he comes through the dumpsters. So he makes him aware of that. He shouts out to him, on your right, he's on your right. And that's where this individual comes out from between the dumpsters. This is the other officer, the one who fires the shot. This is his body camera as he approaches the scene. This is the firearm that was recovered at the scene after the individual was shot. The camera came while the officer. With the photo of it here at the wall station.
Sorry about the poor audio. This was their recording. So.
Remember I told you he fell on the concrete? The officer said that they heard the metal hit the ground. There are 3 spots on here where this gun has scratches on it. We believe those occurred when he hit the ground with the firearm.
What's that firearm?
Semi-automatic. I don't know the make and model.
It's right there on the gun.
This is a second. Sorry, Bobby, can you go back 1 frame, please? This magazine was in the firearm. That's an extended magazine, so it holds more rounds. Go ahead. This is a second magazine that was located in his sweatshirt pocket. This is another firearm that was located inside the stolen vehicle. This is a firearm that was also stolen out of northern Kentucky sometime yesterday, early yesterday morning. Approximately, we believe, based on timelines, this was stolen from a vehicle in northern Kentucky, and then they went on to steal the vehicle that's involved in the incident. This was an extensive search for these individuals. I don't know if anybody's familiar with 2500 Warsaw. It is steep terrain, both directions from that parking lot, heavily wooded. They ran into that area in different directions, and we happen to have as hours of the day that we had several canines available and our drone operators available. So we deployed both of those, got some assistance from community members who were calling us, and we ultimately apprehended this gentleman as well as this gentleman. We still have another person we're looking for. We are attempting to positively identify him and will continue to search for him. As you know, per Marcy's law, we're not going to reveal the officers' names, the officers who were involved, but here is their information. Been on almost 11 years, fugitive apprehension. Been on almost 24 years, fugitive apprehension. This is the scene afterwards. I want to point out this incident, from the time they bailed from the vehicle and police were chasing them to the time the individual was shot, 6 seconds. 6 quick seconds. But the officer's responsibility didn't end there. They did very admirably trying to save this gentleman's life by administering different variations of medical aid until the fire department responded.
Okay, so I have a whole lot to say, and I hope you stick around and listen. If nothing else, other than my 33 plus years in law enforcement experience, even as a police chief, but also just as a human being, try to help you understand what I see with this whole situation. Here's my first problem. 4 young black men in a confirmed stolen car with stolen property, meaning the vehicle, stolen weapons that were taken from another crime, and the young man that was actually shot and killed by the police officer was not only brandishing a gun, pointed it at the officer or in the direction of the officer, and also had an additional magazine in his sweatshirt. So here's my question. Why? When I was reading the comments in several of the videos that I saw, I am so sick and tired of black folks making excuses for this type of behavior. Now, I'm old school, And I believe, and I'm just going to take it there. Where's Daddy? Why are these boys out here acting a fool? And I've said in a lot of my other videos, and I really believe that a lot of these type of situations arise out of chaos. And here's what I mean. As a Christian man, when you look at things from a biblical perspective, God is a God of order. The Bible says that Christ is the head of man, man is the head of his wife. There's an order to things, okay? Even in the universe, the way things are designed, gravity, there is an order. If there was no order, there would be chaos. So even in the family, God has placed the father as the leader, as the head, to raise and help shepherd and guide his children, discipline his children. A lot of people think that's the mother's job. No, it is the father's job. Okay, to be there and to be more of a impact in that child's life, probably more so than the mother. And I'm sure some of you would disagree with me, but I really don't care. Because the point I'm trying to make is, when you look at this situation, you got 4 young black men, and I guarantee you, if you looked into the backgrounds of each and every one of them, there's broken homes where the dad is either, mom and dad aren't together, or their dad is basically non-existent, or there's a lot of variables, a lot of baggage that go into these situations. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't kids that for whatever reason get influenced by their buddies that came from a good home. But again, I still disagree, because I'm going to give you an example like with my own son. My son always told me, he says, Dad, you know what? I didn't fear Mom, but I feared you. Healthy fear is a good thing, because my son, he said, yeah, I did some stupid things, but I knew where to stop, because I wasn't going to do anything, because I was more in fear of what you were going to do to me than any law enforcement officer. And the point I'm trying to make is, as a father, when you impact the lives of your children in a positive leadership way, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to have sons that end up doing this kind of stuff. Why is he in a stolen car with 3 of his buddies? Why is he carrying a handgun? Why is he running from the police? What is it that we don't remember about comply? Stop. What are you running for? Okay, all he had to do while he was sitting in the car, throw his hands up in the air, you got me. End of story, he's still alive, there's no more drama. So like I said, for me as a parent, I blame this young man because he's of age, and the age of accountability, so he, even though in his mind he's still not completely developed mentally, he's still old enough to know the difference between right and wrong. But ultimately, I put the blame on Dad, because I know I won't be able to do it, but if I could get into the background of this family, I guarantee you that Dad has not been as involved in this boy's life as he needs to be. So you guys that want to blame the police officers, as a police officer, having done the job as long as I did, like you just heard the lady said, the entire incident, from the time the kids jumped out of the car and started running to the shooting, was 6 seconds. Officers want to go home at the end of the night, just like everybody else. So imagine if you're in a situation and you're a police officer, you have to make a split-second decision whether or not this guy has got a gun. What is he carrying? Can it do harm to me or harm to anybody else? And I have to make a split-second decision of how I'm going to handle that situation. So until you've walked in those shoes as a law enforcement officer, you need to shut up. You need to knock it off with the stupid comments, taken up for bad behavior, because that's what this is. Had that young man stopped and complied, we wouldn't be having this conversation, and I wouldn't be making this video. But I'm so sick and tired of seeing black folks blaming the system. And I'm not ignorant, okay? I understand that there have been things in our history that haven't been right, that not only black people, a lot of different races of people, women probably more so than any other race, have been come against in a lot of negative ways. However, we're not making excuses here, okay? The police officers have a job to do. There are laws in place for a reason. Had he complied, we would not be having this conversation. So ultimately, yes, I blame the father, because in a moment, we're going to go into another video where the father reacted and did something even more stupid in retaliation for his son. So if you're reading, it says, man accused of hitting and killing a retired sheriff's deputy in court. This young man here is the father of the guy that just got shot by the cops.
Today on MLK Drive, a deputy is working traffic control for UC graduation when a driver crashes into him.
There is a connection between these two incidents. The driver of today's vehicle that struck a deputy has a family relationship with the 18-year-old that we shot yesterday.
Chief, is the person who hit the deputy the father of the person who was shot yesterday?
Yes.
That's
Ryan
crazy.
Hinton's father, 38-year-old Rodney Hinton, is charged with aggravated murder in the deputy's death. He was taken to University Hospital in critical condition. Hours later, the Hamilton County Sheriff's deputy dies. The CPD homicide unit investigating both the death of the deputy killed today and the death of the 18-year-old shot by police.
So just to sum up what happened, I'm sure a lot of you have probably already seen this story, but just to sum up what happened from what I'm understanding, this 38-year-old father, and I'm going to tell you just right now out of experience, 38 years old, in my opinion, as an almost 60-year-old man, you're still what I call a yad. You're young and dumb. You're still trying to figure it out. I have kids right now that are in their mid-30s and they're still trying to figure it out and they don't make the best decisions. So even at 38 years old, he probably is still trying to figure things out on his own. Point I'm trying to make is, what benefit is there because he's upset that his son was killed for his own poor behavior? So what he does is he goes out and he finds a random officer who just happened to have retired a few months ago, but was still working for the police department as a special officer just to make a little money on the side, and directing traffic at the University of Cincinnati. This 38-year-old father of the young black man that was shot by the police decides he's going to retaliate, and he drives his vehicle into this deputy, killing him. What ticked me off the most was reading through the comments and seeing how many people believed that this was fair, that this was the right thing to do. You know, the mindset of, well, black people have been done so wrong for so many years and all this other crap. I'll be honest with you, I'm tired of it. I am tired of it. Do I understand where a lot of that pent-up frustration comes from, where you feel, even having worked as a police officer, I understand it. Okay, I'm not naive to the circumstances. But the bottom line is, we need to be held accountable for our actions. So now you have a young man, I believe 18, 19 years old, that is dead from a very stupid decision that he made to not only be in a stolen vehicle, to be carrying a handgun, a loaded handgun, and to point it at officers, and now he's dead. And his father thought the best course of action was to retaliate by going out and killing somebody that had nothing to do with it just because he was wearing the uniform. And see, this is the kind of stuff that perpetuates violence against police officers. And I'm sure some of you watching this video will say, oh, he's just taking up for the cop because he was one. No, because I was one, I understand the bigger picture. You who's sitting here looking at your screen never wore a badge, never wore a gun, never did the job, never dealt with the scrutiny and the crazy and doing the job the right way, and then being condemned by half the people in the United States because one officer does something stupid, whether it was Rodney King or Derek Chauvin. And we all get labeled as bad cops. That's not fair. So yeah, I'm going to take up for those good officers that are out there doing the job the right way. In the United States, there are over 800,000 police officers, roughly, give or take. And of that 800,000 cops, in every state, in every city in the United States, less than 1% are bad. How come you don't condemn a doctor when he cuts off the wrong limb? Or prescribes opiates and then you become addicted and jack your life all up? How come you don't condemn all lawyers when the lawyer's charging you $400 an hour just to send a stupid email to your ex-wife to discuss child support or alimony? See, it's not fair in any situation. So yeah, I am going to take up for the officer because I've worn the badge and I watched the video and I clearly can see the young man with the gun in his hand, as blurry as it is. And you can see the officer have to make a split-second decision. Do I wait to see if this guy's going to take my life as he's pointing a gun at me, or do I end the threat? Because what a lot of people don't realize, they make the threat about the officer's life. That's one portion of it. The other portion of it is this guy is running into a wooded area, possibly into a neighborhood, because you heard them say in the video that there were neighbors calling in. So obviously neighbors are seeing these knuckleheads running through their backyards. Who's to say that he doesn't confront one of these neighbors and kill a neighbor? And what people don't realize is officers, police officers, have a duty to not only protect his life from the guy pointing a gun at him, but to also prevent him from injuring others. As a police officer, if I was chasing a bad guy and he had a knife or a gun and he had just shown a propensity to be violent, and I see him running into a park with a bunch of kids, I'm taking him out, because I'm not going to wait to see if he is going to kill your son or your daughter because this fool lost his mind. Now, I'm very opinionated when it comes to this, but I'm just going to be honest again. I am sick and tired of the Black Lives Matter crap. I'm sick and tired of black folks blaming black folks. This young black man had every opportunity to stop. He could have threw his hands up in the air. He could have surrendered. He could have done a lot of different things, but he chose not to, and now he is dead because of it. That is on him. And I also, even though I don't know this family, and I'm stepping out on a limb here, but just having done the job as long as I had and understanding human behavior, I guarantee you this 38-year-old father has not been as impactful in this boy's life as he should have been, because I don't believe he would be doing what he's doing. When I was growing up, all my mother had to do was threaten me that she was going to send me to the Boys Industrial School in Columbus, Ohio, because her brother worked there as a guard. It was a school for juveniles, for bad juveniles. That scared the crap out of me. My mom and dad didn't play, okay? They held me accountable. And because of that, I kept that straight and narrow, because I wasn't trying to get locked up or do something stupid. Now, I know you have people that have their own minds, and there are parents that do the right thing, and they still have kids that turn out to be knuckleheads. I get that. But in the grand scheme of things, and I'm going to end on this young man is solely responsible. For those of you that are commenting in these videos and feeling sorry for this young man, you know what? Yes, it is sad because somebody lost his life. But it's no different if he's going 100 miles an hour, drinking and driving, acting a fool, and he slams into a telephone pole and kills himself. I don't feel sorry for him, because his behaviors is what put him in that situation. Carrying a gun, running from the police, pointing a gun at the police, got him shot and killed. His behaviors put him in that situation. Look at it from that perspective and quit trying to make black people out to be the victim, because like I said, I'm sick and tired of it. Hold yourself accountable. If you screw up, own it. Quit trying to say, oh, I blame the white man, or I blame slavery. Quit blaming crap. Oh, we need reparations and all this BS. It's done with. Okay, I was never a slave. Maybe my grandparents' parents were. I wasn't. It's that whole narrative that gets pushed all the time. It drives me up a freaking wall. Knock it off, okay? Sadly, from a human standpoint, I hate to see anybody lose their life. But again, like I said, his choices. The father has now made the circumstances even worse, because now he's probably going to go to prison for the rest of his life because he killed a police officer in retaliation. And what does this solve? It solves nothing. It just creates more hurt for this officer's family, more hurt for this father who decided to drive into this cop, because I'm sure he has sisters and brothers, maybe a wife, maybe other kids, that now he's not going to be a part of their lives because he's going to be locked up for the rest of his life. The whole situation is sad all the way around. But people, quit making excuses for these people. You see the video, I mean, they released a body camera video almost immediately. Let it talk for itself, okay? Do the right thing and just say, hey, you know what? He put himself in that position, instead of trying to condone his behavior. That's jacked up, and I'm sorry to say it, but it is. Make sure you like this video if you haven't already. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And as always, I love you guys, and I will check you on the next one. Later. Peace out.